Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Caitlin, and today I want to share with you some resources for learning, or I guess practicing Peruvian Spanish. So I've been learning Spanish for 10 years now, a long time, I think. And I'm kind of at that point where people tell me that my Spanish doesn't really sound like it's from anywhere. Because of course I learned in a classroom with native and non-native teachers, but it just kind of never really sticks. And I don't really want to have a native Spanish speaker accent. I'm from the US and I'll always have that English speaker accent, but I do want to be able to understand the jokes and sometimes the context and just words and phrases from Peru specifically because my husband is from there. But in general, I would love to deepen my understanding of Spanish and the different accents and dialects. And along the way, you get to learn a lot about the countries too. So I have, I guess, researched, or I've tried to compile a list of different resources from Peru. Most of them, in fact, I think all of them are not teaching Peruvian Spanish. A couple of them are, but most of them are kind of just made by Peruvians for regular everyday consumption as media. So I'm gonna go ahead and share with you. I will be reading off of my iPad a little bit, so forgive me if you see me doing that, but that's what I'm doing. So first up, in the reading section, I have some news sources. I have three main news sources, which would be El Comercio, El Peruano, and La República. So El Comercio is the one that I usually use if I'm reading news in Spanish. It has just regular news. It has different categories. It has news about Peru. It has news from around the world. It has lots of things. I think that one's really good. I like it a lot. The second one I mentioned was El Peruano, and this one is actually the oldest newspaper from Peru. So that's quite interesting, I think. I don't really use that one as much, but I do know that it is pretty popular in Peru. The third one that I mentioned was La República. This one is also a pretty big news source. A lot of Peruvians do have this one. It I don't know. I just think it's another news source. I mean, they're all pretty similar. You get the different categories. You've got sports, weather, you've got national news, international news. It depends on what you're looking for. I really only use El Comercio, not for any special reason, but that's just the one that I found first. When you're using news sources to learn and practice Spanish, you have to expect a lot of, words that you don't know because of the way that they describe things. So if you're not kind of into a specific topic, you might not understand it very well in Spanish. So one example for me is that one time I needed to read something about this golf player. I couldn't even tell you, it's been so long, but it was about a golf player and something that happened. However, reading this in Spanish for me was pretty difficult because I can't even really talk that much about golf in English. I'm not a golfer. I don't watch golf. I don't talk about it. So to have to read it in Spanish and figure out what all of this meant was a challenge, but I do think it's useful for language learning. So it's great if you want to use it for that. Moving on, one famous author that does come from Peru is Mario Vargas Llosa. You might have heard of him already. He has a few pretty famous works. The most notable works I think he has would be La Conversación en la Catedral, La Casa Verde, and La Ciudad de los Perros. I haven't read these, forgive me, I haven't read these yet, but I do want to. I think that one of these days I might do some kind of reading challenge and I'll try to go through a few different books. But Mario Vargas Llosa, very famous author in Spanish, the Spanish speaking world. A lot of good stories, I think. So that's all I have for the reading section. Peru has a lot of famous authors, a lot of famous modern authors too. You just have to do a little bit of research, but Mario Vargas Llosa is the one that I found. And I already knew of him, so that's why I included him, but I think he's a pretty good one to keep. So that's all I have for the reading. I have music to start with for the listening section of resources that I wrote down. So one singer that I really like is Pedro Suarez Vertiz. I think he has some really good songs like No Llores Más and Cuando Piensas en Volver. These are two really good songs that really stay on my playlist. They really rotate through all the time. The next that I have on the list for music would be No sé quién y los no sé cuántos. I think they have some really good songs. My favorite song by them is Sin Calzoncito. I think it's, a nice little upbeat kind of fun song. At least for me. I just like to listen to it. And the third one that I have on the list for music is We the Lion. So I'm going to be honest, this one, they actually sing in English. They don't really sing much in Spanish, but they are from Peru, and if you want to search their lyrics in Spanish, that's fantastic practice. If you want to watch interviews of them in Spanish, that's also fantastic practice. My favorite song by them is Take Me Back. They also have another good song called Runaway. I just discovered them actually when I was looking for Peruvian musicians, and I think they're so good, and I think they really deserve to be on this list. Even though they sing in English, you can still find their content in Spanish. I know a lot of their YouTube videos have bilingual lyrics, or they have them translated, so you could definitely use that, especially if you're lower level. I think that would be really nice. And the last musician that I wanted to include, it's like a group. They're called Agua Marina. I really like this group. They have a few good songs. My favorite by them is called Amor Amor, and I think it's really cute, really nice song. Okay, and moving on to the TV film section, I only have one movie that I included because trying to find TV that's from Peru in Peruvian Spanish is a little more difficult than I thought it would be. But one really good film is called La Chabuca. I did watch this film and I really enjoyed it. I thought this film was really good. I highly recommend it. So to finish up this listening section that I wrote down, I have 3 podcasts for you guys. The first one is called The Peru Channel. This one is quite nice. It talks about current events and things like that happening in Peru. It's kind of like another news source, but it's through listening. It just talks about the country. The second one that I have is called Learn Peruvian Spanish. So this one actually is teaching you Peruvian Spanish. This one is nice. I've listened to a couple of episodes and I really enjoy it a lot. The third one that I have is Hablando Huevadas, which this one is not teaching you Spanish by any means. It's kind of like a comedy. I think they're a comedy duo, and I know a lot of Peruvians watch them and enjoy them. Personally, I don't really watch them that often, but I should, because the reason why I don't watch them that much is because I don't understand the jokes. Understanding jokes in a foreign language is pretty advanced, and I mean, I've been learning Spanish for a long time, but to understand jokes you have to understand the context of the joke, and I haven't been to Peru yet, so I haven't seen the country, I haven't lived that experience, so I don't really know what they're talking about. There's just so many things that I don't understand, and because of that I don't understand the jokes. Totally normal, but if you want to practice, if you're good at understanding jokes in Spanish, or if you want to get better at understanding jokes, this podcast might be a good one for you to listen to. I know they also have video format, so if you don't like listening to a podcast, you could consider watching their videos. And the very last thing that I've included is a content creator section. I have 2 content creators. Well, one is a content creator. The first one is called Cries in Quechua. She's a girl that does kind of like video essays and things like that, where she just kind of talks about her day. She just talks to the camera like she's talking to a friend, kind of telling stories or giving her own opinions. I think she's great. She's easy to understand, especially if you're at like intermediate advanced. Beginner, I'm not so sure. I haven't been beginner in a little while, so if you check her out and you're a beginner, let me know. And the second one I have is Peru 21 TV channel. This is a YouTube channel that has news about Peru. So if you want to get the news in Peru and internationally in Spanish from Peruvian channels, I've given you a YouTube news channel for video, I've given you a podcast, and I've given you a reading news source. So let me know what you think about that. So to finish this off, I just want to give you like a couple of funny phrases or like words that I've learned in Peruvian Spanish while trying to find this information. So in Peruvian Spanish, aguacate becomes palta, which is avocado. Maíz becomes choclo or corn. And then instead of trabajo, you can say chamba for job or like work. So I thought that was quite interesting. And speaking of palta, you could say, oh, que palta. This would mean like how embarrassing. Or you could also say que piña, which is kind of like what bad luck, or like what a guy with bad luck, you know? So I think that's so fun. You know, Peruvian Spanish has a special place in my heart. My husband is from there. That's what he speaks. And one of these days, I really want to make an effort to be able to understand what he's talking about when he talks to other Peruvians. So that's my video. This is actually my very first YouTube video. So let me know what you think. And if you have any more Peruvian Spanish resources, please, please, please leave a comment and tell me. I would love to be able to practice my Spanish. I would love to get more Peruvian content, so let me know. You can also leave a comment telling me what you thought of my first YouTube video. It is my first one, so please be kind. And thank you so much for watching this video, and let me know if you have any questions. Bye! Don't forget to give this video a like if you enjoyed it.